Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to be doing another video today. My name's Draskyl. Today's lesson is going to be a crash course in the safe lane for the early game. This is going to be a core perspective. We're going to cover a lot of things in the video today, knowing your hero matchups, what you should buy, lane equilibrium, trading efficiently, when to push, when to farm, and potentially rotations as well. So, before we start the replay, the very first thing we're going to talk about is knowing your matchups, because that's pretty much the earliest thing that you can possibly think about in a game. In order to make any decision, you need to know what heroes that you're potentially going to be laning against, right? So if you're really new at the game, I would not worry about this too much, and by very new I mean less than 100 games. But this is going to be more towards people who are intermediate players when I talk about this stuff, so if you're brand new, you can probably just skip ahead a couple of minutes. But anyway, in this game, I have a good idea that I'm going to be laning against a Pudge and a Pangolier, or a Pangolier and a Jakiro. So my itemization is going to reflect the fact that before I even walk to the lane, I have an idea of what I'm going to be laning against. So with that in mind, and this is pretty universal for most safe lane heroes nowadays, you're going to buy a combination of Tangos, a Stout Shield, and Mangoes. Now in this replay, this is a game where I had Terrorblade. This was a hero that was a daily hero, so I got a bonus Mango. You're not always going to get him. If you don't, that's fine. Usually my go-to is 1 Stout Shield, 2 sets of Tangos, and 2 or 3 Mangoes, however many you can fit in there. So now that we know, we're going to pick up our items, and we're going to walk the lane. Now, in this game, I believe what happens is we can test the rune. And whenever you can, you should contest the first rune. First rune gives a lot of gold to the team. And we have a pretty strong level 1. Even if it's a Pangolier and a Pudge, I have 11 base armor and a Stout Shield, so I'm feeling pretty confident in being able to contest this rune. So we walk up the hill. Me and my support are both here. We have the high ground established, so when the Alchemist does walk in, I pop meta to scare him off. I would rather not give the rune to the Alchemist. And then we just pick up both bounty runes on the way back, and we're going to go back to lane. Now, when you're safe lane, you always want to block. Like, almost always. Just because the closer your creeps are to your tower, the happier you're going to be. Now you notice we get our nice little block here. I think I messed it up at the end, but maybe not. Fast forward a tiny bit. And you'll notice my creeps are very, very, very close to the tower. Like, this is about as sweet spot as you can get in regards to where the creeps are for the dire safe lane. When you get this block, this feels really, really nice, because you're pretty much completely safe from almost anything that would happen to you. Now, the important part about safe laning, and this is another one of the points in our lesson, is lane equilibrium. Now, lane equilibrium is effective everywhere. It doesn't just have to pertain to the safe lane. But in this lesson, what we're really going to try to focus on is keeping the lane static, or being able to pull it back towards your tower. And these things are important because safe lane heroes have a tendency to not be the strongest without some investment of items and farm. And that's going to take time. Now, obviously, it's 32 seconds in. I don't have any money yet. So I want to be in a safe position so that I can accrue said money. So we get our good block. You'll notice, instead of hitting the enemy creep, I hit my creep first. Now, when you do that, you'll notice that both the melee creeps die at the same time. This is good for us. If we have the same amount of creeps, it's going to deal equal damage, which means that I have not pushed the lane, right? Now, there's another thing that people will refer to when you're in a game. They'll say stuff like hard denying. Now, what hard denying is allowing the creep to get to 50% health and then attacking it immediately. Because as soon as it gets below that 50% threshold, you can start to deny. This is one of the most important aspects of lane equilibrium. And if you don't do it, you're not going to be able to keep the lane where you want it, and you won't be able to utilize creep equilibrium to its fullest. So you'll have to use other methods like pulling aggro or pulling the creep wave and stuff like that. This is a trick that will help you in the safe lane pretty much in any bracket, and in the highest levels of play. That kind of stuff, lane equilibrium, harassing, trading, all these things are the make or break. And a hero who is not favored in a matchup could still win if they understand their laning mechanics better than their opponent. So we've got our 1 deny. We're going to stand here. We're not auto-attacking. We're always going to be focusing on the creep that the enemy range creep is attacking. And even though I miss a CS, I also want to make note of that. So I missed a creep kill, right? And people are going to say, wow, you missed a CS in a safe lane. And yes, it's true. I shouldn't have missed that CS. But my counterpoint is, if you are keeping the lane secured like this, and you're forcing the enemy offlaner to walk to 2 potential heroes, it's better. So if I have to trade 1 creep or even 2 creeps in terms of gold to keep the lane where I want it, I will make that trade every single day of the week. Now, that's not to say I couldn't have gotten it. It's just that, you know, it was a mistake, and I miscalculated my attack speed. So, keep the lane where you want it to be over going for just the 1 creep. So you can see the creep went in a tower range for just a second there. But you'll notice again, my creep wave is perfectly static. And this is where I want to keep it. Now, I could attack this guy. I could, quote-unquote, assert dominance and just walk into him, start beating him up, tell him to get out of here. But what happens if I do that? What happens if I go and I hit him? Well, what's going to happen is the creeps are going to aggro onto me. Now, when the creeps aggro onto me, because I'm standing so close to this enemy hero and I've just clicked on him, they're not hitting my own creeps. But my creeps still are attacking them. So they're taking damage and not dealing damage to my wave. And since I can't kill my own creeps until they're below half health, it's very, very difficult to maintain the lane equilibrium. And this is why so many players, especially the lower level players, are going to have a hard time keeping their lane in the same place. Because they're going to see this Pudge walk up, and they're going to immediately click on him because they don't want him to be by the creeps. But the reality is, that's a trap. The trap is trying to harass the hero when he can't contest you. If he walks up and starts hitting the creeps, I'm still just going to try to deny. I'm not going to go for a trade. I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm just going to try to keep the lane where it is. And if my hero does beat him in a trade, say I'm a Monkey King, for example, instead of a Terrorblade, then sure, maybe I hit him a few times. But the main goal is to keep the lane back while zoning him at the same time. And in the spirit of that, we're going to continue the replay. You notice he kind of pulls the creeps back there a bit. He's clicking on my hero and then backing up to pull the creeps towards himself so that he can last it. Now you'll notice when he does this, he actually makes the wave push a little bit. And we're still really just focused on denying here. I don't care about trading or anything like that. The thing that I want the most in this situation is for this range creep to be dead. The range creeps deal the most amount of damage of any other creep in the wave by a wide margin. So if this thing is still alive and you got 2 of them, then you know your lane's going to be pushing in. It's a very big tell for the early laning phase. If your wave is pushing or not is if you have 2 range creeps. That is a huge problem because it's almost impossible for me to pull the lane back if there are 2 range creeps on my side. So the fact that that range creep is in the front is a good thing because he's being hit by the enemy wave. So because I know that creep is going to die, I don't go for the range creep. The range creep deny. And I just allow my wave to keep taking damage. It's really all I care about. Still pretty much in my happy place. The melee creeps are lower than mine. I'm auto-attacking a little bit. But I'm going to walk up here and just grab one of those denies. Every time I'm backing up, it's because I want this range creep to be hitting mine. So what you could do there is you could just say, well, why didn't you just tank the range creep? It does like no damage. The reason I don't tank it is because I want this creep to take damage so that I can deny it. And by denying it, I don't double stack my range creep. And just like that, we get another die. A lot of laning in the early game is understanding which creeps to go for and why. But if you understand what the goal of your hero is in a lane, in this example, I'm a Terrorblade, so I'm pretty farm-centric. I just want to hit the creeps. I don't really care about getting kills. And truth be told, getting a kill in this lane it's not that hard, because the heroes are both low armor. But if I can just free farm against the two heroes that are here anyway, that's fine with me too. I don't need to like push my advantage or anything like that. And you'll notice a couple of seconds ago, let's go ahead and rewind so we can talk about it when it happens. Okay, so right here, I click on him, and I kind of pull the creeps back a little bit. This is something else that you can do if you feel like you can't walk up to the wave normally. So there's a Lion and a Pudge. If I walk in, you know, I only have 500 health. He turns on Rot. I get hit by a hook. There's 2 disables. There is a chance that I could die. So what I do, if the lane is in a position that I don't like, I can attack him, run backwards because the creeps will run towards me so long as I'm within the range. And then I can reposition the wave in a way where I feel safer. But at this point, we've kind of already lost what I would call lane equilibrium. The melee creeps are a lot lower than mine, and my range creep is at full health. So at this point, we've pretty much conceded the fact that we're not going to be able to keep the lane in place. It just won't happen. The other thing that we can take note of is before this point, if we want to like super sleuth this, we can find the exact point where we lose lane equilibrium. Right here, I go for an aggro play. I see them standing up in front, and I want to be able to get some harass, to deal some damage. My Metamorphosis is coming off cooldown, so I kind of want to go for a play. I say to my Venge, hey, you know, maybe you can stun, maybe we can get a kill, right? If I get a kill with the meta, I can deal some damage to the tower, I can push the wave, or I can choose to just keep it where it is right now. But we got to get the kill fast, because the longer it takes, the more chance that we're going to have that our creep wave is going to be pushing it. So I get a couple of attacks off there. The other thing that we'll note, and this is pretty small, but it does matter, is that the creeps, I believe, at least 1 or 2 of them got hit by the Wave of Terror. So at this point, the lane equilibrium is a little bit messy. But we notice that I recovered it, right? So we'll watch it one more time. So to watch the whole thing through, we'll play it at half speed. I attack the Pudge, I walk backwards. Notice I don't stop. Right here is what we want. The 2 melee creeps hitting my range creep. So at first, it looks like we lose the control of the lane, and we no longer want to like go for any aggro plays. We want to focus on getting it back, right? Maybe you pull. That would be something the support could do, but this is a safe laner perspective video. So we get the lane equilibrium back by getting the range creep killed. So because the range creep dies, I'm now in a position where I can go for the melee creep deny. And even though it's not perfect, it's a much better situation than what could have been. We're kind of waiting this one out. We want the melee creep to take a little bit more damage. Just straight back to hard denying, just immediately. Again, we're going to pull the wave a bit. We're going to try to get our range creep killed. We auto that melee creep a little bit so we can try to get in range for the last hit. So another missed opportunity there. The Venge was a little bit further away than I had anticipated. We didn't get the stun on the hero that I wanted. And we didn't end up getting a kill out of it. And now we're trying to recover the lane. Because my next wave is coming up right now, so we're going to have a lot of melee creeps. We try to go for another play. At this point, the lane control is pretty much lost, and that's fine. I've got meta going. We get some damage on the wave here. Get a deny just so they don't get the EXP. Oh, actually looks like you got that one. Now I'm under their tower, and I can't really push. So I'm just going to focus on trying to get whatever denies I can. My meta wore off. But now the lane's kind of in this really, like, ugh. I'm standing really close to a tower. It's nighttime. There's also a Pudge on the enemy team. And I'm not feeling so hot. So I think my support pulls. Yep, he's right over here. If you don't want to stand up here, you can just go and do the pull yourself. Or you can try to go for the large camp pull here, which is pretty tricky. But in this situation, I know the only way I really die is if I get hooked. So I'm pretty much just going to hug the creep wave against Pudge. That's essentially what you do. You hug the wave so that it's very hard for him to line up a hook. He misses. We're going to throw out that reflection so that they feel a bit unsafe about attacking us. And we're just waiting for the pull to go through so we can back up to the tower. And right now, my biggest objective is really just to continue farming. Whenever you play one of these heroes that just needs 2 or 3 items to really be useful, this is how I would pretty much play all of them. So your anti-mages, your specters, stuff like that. The specter has a bit more wiggle room because you have things like Haunt to be able to get you into fights. But just as kind of a guideline for your safe lane play. And you'll notice I sent myself an Aquila as my first item. Very, very solid safe laning item, good stats. Makes it so that when I pop meta and I have my reflection up, I can very easily go for a kill. The other thing you'll notice is that I turn the ring off. And this is something that you can do pretty much in any lane as well. If you do buy an Aquila, you can just turn it on or off depending on if you want the lane to push or not. So if you turn it off, it's not going to push. If you have it on, it's going to push because it's going to grant that Armor Aura to the creeps. And I'm still not really looking to push the tower right now. I'm level 5. I could if I really wanted to, but I'm scared of TPs and I don't have boots. So I'm still trying to keep the lane where I feel like I can CS, as of course I just missed one. But still pretty much just doing the same thing as we did in the very, very early game. It's only 6 minutes in. We've got a fair amount of CS. It's not the best safe lane ever, but it's certainly not a bad one either. The other part about doing stuff like this, where you're keeping the lane kind of just frozen or near your tower, is the enemy offlaners are going to feel a lot more scared if they have to walk all the way up to basically under your own tower. If you're sitting where they are, on the opposite side, near their tier 1, then you are the one who feels unsafe because you're further away from potential support. And we're just going to keep controlling the lane. And whatever hero comes up here is going to have a very hard time finding experience.
Just achieved first blood. Thanks and have fun.
I think I get treads here, and maybe I turn my ring on and go for a push. We'll see what happens. Looks like I choose to try to deny this first. Yep, there's my treads. But the wave is starting to push a little bit on its own now. So what we might do is try to get a second wave. Maybe pop the meta, hit the tower a bit. Just missed that CS, it's unfortunate. And it looks like we got a TP, so I will not be pushing because there are 2 heroes opposing me in the lane. We're gonna pop meta. These heroes are really squishy. Kind of just blow them up. I turn my ring on as soon as the card starts taking damage. Ideally, I should have walked up to take a tower hit or 2, just because. You know, protecting the cart can be very important for pushing in the early game. If you tank the hits for the cart, it does a significant amount of damage to the tower. So we chase the Pudge away. We got meta still. We're going to take a relatively safe path back. He hooks me for some reason, even though I'm level 7. Overestimating his strength. Lion does the same thing. We saw his TP. We still have Sunder. And we just pick up 2 easy kills. Our ring has been on this whole time. Still interested in trying to pressure the lane. The items that I've bought so far are pretty standard for any kind of farm-heavy safe lane. Like I said before, Luna, Anti-Mage buys it quite a bit now. Terrorblade, Void. Even if you're strength-based safe lane, you can buy an Aquila. It's a very, very strong item for the cost. we're feeling pretty confident in our early game. 57 and 31 at 9 minutes. Obviously, it's not like the highest amount of CS. You can definitely get much more than this. But there were also 2 heroes in my lane, both of which had nukes. One of them had a double disable. And I think we walked away with a pretty decent amount of farm. Now, I don't want to make this video too long. This is more just like a basic guide to people who don't know a whole heck of a lot about the early game from the safe lane position. So I kind of want to stop it at around the 10-minute mark, and we'll probably just say that that's good enough. And this is going to be a multiple-part video. We're going to do like the early laning phase, we're going to do the mid game, and we're going to do the late game. And the mid and the late game videos are going to be a lot more about what items am I buying, why am I doing the stuff that I'm doing, what hero matchups are important to know, and stuff like that. But for this video, we wanted to make it pretty quick. We wanted to make it pretty simple. I think I got basically every single point that I wanted to get across. Lane equilibrium and understanding your hero matchups are obviously the most important things when talking about the generic laning phase. But I think this more or less covers the basic thought process into how to play a very farm-heavy safe laner in the first 10 minutes of the game. So we'll go ahead and stop it here. I want to thank everyone very much for watching, for tuning in as well. You guys can catch me at twitch.tv/Draskyl, that's Draskyl. You can also tweet me on Twitter at DraskylDota2, TWO. And I want to thank you guys again very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed.